Lawmakers putting the final touches on financial regulatory reform. But you know what? There is one big item missing from this bill. Any regulation reining in government-owned mortgage companies Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Now, I know you're going to remember those two monsters, the ones largely responsible for the subprime mortgage crisis, the ones we're propping up, hello, to the tune of $146 billion of our tax money. My next guest is on the FinReg Conference Committee, and he knows firsthand what is, and more importantly, is not happening with Fannie and Freddie. Joining us from the nation's capital, Republican Congressman Scott Garrett of New Jersey. Congressman, how in the holy heck can we not include Fannie and Freddie in this bill?
Well, that's the $64,000, well, actually, maybe it's the $147 billion question. And I have to start off by commending you for delving into this issue and staying on top of it, because I know a lot of the other press doesn't do so. And the American public has a right to know exactly what's going on with probably the largest bailout of any of the bailouts that we're doing in Washington.
Well, this is a lot of dough, as we were saying, and thanks for the compliment. But to me, it's everybody needs to know this, because look, this is a lot of money, and I hear that Congressman Barney Frank just said, no, we're not going to entertain any of the amendments dealing with Fannie and Freddie, and this is going to be the most expensive part of the crisis, the mortgage meltdown and the subsequent recession that we faced. What is going to be the fate of these two entities, and why shouldn't they be in financial regulatory reform?
Well, to go in reverse order of your questions, they absolutely should be in this bill. If you look at what is the cause, the ultimate cause of why we're in this financial crisis right now and what have you, many of the experts who came before our committee pointed their finger right at the GSEs and the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and the fact that the way they behaved over the last decade. And it's not something of any surprise. You know, myself and a number of other members of Congress 7 years ago when I came to Congress said these institutions are systemically risky, they're going to cause problems. I never knew they were going to go out of control this much, but we saw them coming down the road that they are, and now they're costing us, well, back on Christmas Eve, the Treasury Secretary, there's no limit to what the American taxpayers have to pay. We paid out around over $150 billion already, and the numbers could go up into the $1 trillion range before we're all done with this. So something should be done, but Barney will not allow it to occur in this bill.
What should happen, Congressman?
Well, first, the very first thing we should have is transparency. I tried to move an amendment, and just before I came over here, Senator Crapo tried to do the same thing on the Senate side. In both cases, I think we're going to fail. He failed on his end, and we're going to try, but I doubt we'll get any further with Barney in our House. And that is to say, how much are we responsible for? Let's put it on the books. Let's put it on the fact that we're spending tens or hundreds of billions of dollars. Let's put it on the budget for the U.S. government. We have a debt ceiling that we have to operate under in Washington. Let's apply that as well. That's a common sense transparency issue, and Chris Dodd and the Senate said no to that. So that's step one. And step two, of course, is actually winding them down, and that's the bigger question, but should also be dealt with here.
Well, you know, if they were going to be transparent, they wouldn't do all these negotiations over bills in back rooms with the door closed and the mics off, but that's just my point of view. Let's talk about FinReg more broadly here, because, you know, I feel like we sort of lost our way on this thing. We were going to have tough regulations, you know, no more too big to fail, and now it seems like, well, maybe we might have some of that. What's going on behind those closed doors on too big to fail?
Oh, sure. Too big to fail is here, and that's part and parcel with this bill. And also the bailout mentality that got us into this situation in the first place is now part of the bill. It's part of the statute. So all those things that we were worried about and complained about, the hundreds of billions of dollars of taxpayer money going out to bail out Wall Street, as it were, well, now we put it in this statute. We codified it and said the next time this comes around, well, you can see the American taxpayer being on the hook again. And the systemic problems will still be there. The moral hazard problems, that just simply means that some companies are going to realize, hey, we got a good thing here. We can look back to these funds, to the taxpayers, if ever we make bad decisions in the future. We're putting that all into statute, and that's going to be with us now for decades, generations to come, because of the bill that Dodd and Barney are working on right now. Which will
probably only ensure that we get more failures in the end. But is there anything in this bill that you like?
Well, a little bit of pride of ownership here on this one is just literally also before we came here on the air. The provision I've been working on for a number of years, it's called covered bonds, and this simply is a mechanism for banks to be able to pool their loans, their debts, and keep them on the books. Makes it easier for you and I, if we ever have a loan with a bank, to be able to go back to identify where that mortgage is. It's no longer out in the another world of securitization. And Chairman Frank supported that. And over in the Senate side just now, they're supporting that. We have to work out some details, hopefully. But that's one sliver, and that was an amendment that our side put out.
Bipartisanship, that's, I guess, surprising in this world to occasionally see that. How quickly do you think that these two sides are going to have something to give to the president to sign?
Well, if you listen to Chairman Frank, you know, he has an agenda to make sure that no matter what, whether we're done debating it or not, we're going to have this bill so it can be on the president's desk before the 4th of July break. His idea is that this is just too important of an issue to leave to have to deal with over the holidays. I would suggest that it's just too important of an issue to rush through without the adequate debate. Look, you know, we had a lot of debate in the House on these bills.
Congressman Garrett, I'm sorry, sir. I'm going to have to interrupt you.